Hello again. As you may or may not know, I am Eli the Computer Guy, and INE has invited me down here to their Durham, North Carolina office to do interviews with real networking professionals. Today I'm talking with Fred Ferrell, Network and Infrastructure Engineer at TMW Systems. So thank you for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So you are a Network and Infrastructure Engineer at TMW Systems. What does TMW Systems do?
Well, we're a logistics software company. Then I work in the cloud services division, where we offer hosting for those clients that decide to host with us instead of trying to do an on-prem solution.
Okay. So what would that be similar to? Or the thing we were talking before, is that like similar to like an AWS type of solution?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything, cloud hosting is just a computer somewhere else. And essentially that's what we do provide. But our expertise and the level of infrastructure is what becomes affordable for clients that want to have that type of protection. And
okay. So like what kind of clients, who would come to you? Like why would somebody choose you guys over AWS or Azure or something like that?
I can proudly say uptime is our forte. We had 99.994% last year, which beats all of them.
Oh, okay, interesting. So how many data centers do you guys have? So we're down here in the Raleigh, Durham, whatever triangle area. Do you just have one data center here? Are you an international?
I have two here in the U.S. One is here in Raleigh.
Yeah.
That's our main production site, and my DR site is actually in Nashville, Tennessee.
Really, Nashville? Yeah. Why would you pick Nashville?
Well, it was brought in because of another company that was acquired by TMW.
Yeah.
They already had assets there, so we decided as a company to just swap cabinets or space in those cabinets to be able to provide our backup off-site.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. So, do you know what the reason was, like why you guys set up in this particular area originally? Is there some benefit to being around here? Well,
the company was local, so the headquarters for TMW Systems is in Cleveland, Ohio. And and they acquired a smaller software company. Yeah. I don't know the name. I wasn't part of it when they were acquired. Yeah. But at that time, there was some people within that group that were providing some type of cloud hosting.
Okay.
And it just continued to grow from there. But it's been going on for about 7 years now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So like how many, like to give an idea, like how many servers do you figure you guys have in your data center? Is it thousands or?
So we're completely virtual. So we have about 1,000 VMs with about 4,000 end users that would be on our infrastructure at any given point. Really? Oh. And then infrastructure size, it's amazing how small the footprint has gotten because we could probably fit it all in just 2 cabinets.
You can fit it all in 2 cabinets, really? Yep. Wow. Interesting. So, wow. So then, as a network and infrastructure engineer, then, like, what's your kind of day-to-day job with them? What do you do?
Well, first and foremost is make sure everything's up. So make sure that our monitoring is continually reporting successfully, and then really focused on growth. We've been growing quite a bit as a team, and because of our business, and that's where most of my time is spent, is looking at new technologies, different approaches to implementing infrastructure, and latest things. We're evaluating ACI as one of those new ones that we're going to be adding.
So I see here. So you're currently going for your CCIE and data center.
Yes.
So then, what's the benefit of CCI? So you've actually got like 17 these are ridiculous how many certifications you've got. CCDP, CCNP, CCDA, VMware, the whole 9 yards. So what's the benefit, or what's the attraction to the CCIE for data center? Like why not MCSC or any of the other 1,000 certifications you could go for?
Yeah. So I've decided to take the track of the networking side of things. Yeah. And in my data center, I have Cisco UCS and I have Cisco Nexus technologies, and those are covered at probably the highest level, I would say, with that CCIE data center. And I want to be that expert with those technologies, and that's why I'm pursuing that certification.
Okay, that's cool. So how long have you been trying for the CCIE then?
There's two parts to it. I've got the written and I have the lab. The written, I've been working on quite a bit of the lab stuff to get more understanding of the protocols that I need to understand for the written.
Okay.
But I'd say about 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
Okay. So how long have you been doing Cisco in total? Like since you got your first CCNA, how long has that been? Not
very long. Probably about 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
You guys must just be smart around here. Because I swear, like until today, I thought CCIE was like a 5-year thing. Apparently, I guess you guys are just running through it a lot quicker down here.
I think the training resources that are available today make a huge difference.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. So we go back and we look at your certification. So again, you've got like 17 certifications here and all kinds of stuff. But one of the curious things is, so you've got your CCNA and your CCDA, the Design Associate, CCNP and CCDP, Design Professional. I had always thought between the NAs and the DAs and whatever, I thought you kind of went for one or the other. Am I wrong about that, or why did you go for both?
They're both completely different. I would say that the NP is more focused on the troubleshooting aspect of the hardware, and then the DA or the DP is focused on the actual design. And it's a lot broader because they bring in the whole gambit of the Cisco technologies. It could be the collaboration side, data center, the WAN side of things. But you don't get into it at an extremely technical level as far as having to troubleshoot it. But it's important to be aware, of all those technologies.
Huh. Now, going for your CCIE, now I know like with the CCNA, CCNPs and all that, you can have specializations. Have you thought about the specialization, wireless and security and that? Have you thought about that, or you just want to go straight for the CCIE? Is there a benefit between the? Well,
the CCIE, they have the different focuses, but security is definitely another one that I think it's in everybody's job description now.
Yeah.
And so that's probably something that I'll also take a look at.
Would you go for, because the last person we interviewed was talking about some people have like 3 and 4 CCIEs. Would you go for multiple CCIEs?
It is tempting, but I think when the time comes after I finish up, it's going to be a decision of what is the technology that I want to focus on, and let that be the driver to what I would go after, not just another CCIE.
Yeah. So with your job and all that, again, one of the questions that always comes up is, so you have to recertify every 2 years, and the question is, do you recertify or not? Do you figure that you would every 2 years, or is it once you get your CCIE, you're good?
I don't know because I don't have it, and I won't, speculate. I've read some interesting articles that guys that they do talk about whether they should renew it or not.
Yeah.
My opinion today would be yes, to keep it.
Okay.
And only because of the amount of energy that you spent just getting to the point where you get it.
Yeah.
Why would you, not just put a little bit more time in to maintain it? I guess would be my mindset.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. So then you started, let's see, with technology then. So you started in the Marine Corps back in the 90s. Did you actually do technology in the Marines?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely no, really. Okay.
But I did do troubleshooting, and I think that is actually one of the really base skill sets that you got to have in technology. But I was a heavy equipment and a boat mechanic in the Marines. Yeah.
What got you into technology? Like then, how did you shift from that to technology, or to like the IT technology world?
Well, there's a couple things. One, my brother was already in technology. He was actually working with a consulting company and doing well for himself. And he's a couple years younger than me, so that opened my eyes up for it. And then I was actually, when I was on active duty, I got out and got recalled after about 3 months. Well, I did about another year, and when I got out of there, I actually went and worked as a diesel mechanic with a friend of mine at a company he had joined up in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And it was only my second week there, and we were changing out a rear differential in a garbage truck, and it was just laying underneath that thing at almost midnight doing that work. Definitely, that's the moment I go back to and appreciate, and helps me continue my focus on my new career.
Okay. So did you have any issues? Because, I mean, I know I have a lot of people that are in the military transitioning out of the military. And there can be a lot of issues with transitioning out of the military. I mean, the military is its own world. It really is almost an entire world, and you come out to the civilian world. Did you find anything that like helped you transition to the civilian world? Were there any weird things that you ran into you didn't expect, or is there anything?
My biggest asset in making that transition was definitely mentorship. I had, when I got out, I was very fortunate to work for a retired sergeant major. He had actually just retired himself, and there are things that we do in the military, and we have certain mindsets, and this is, I don't know, 8-9 years ago that I was doing it. So definitely, I would say young, and also having to contend with that and just not having the experience. So, being able to talk with him about, and certainly others about, different challenges that I may see, it became very trivial.
So then, how did you get your first job? So is it network administrator at the Roger Bacon Academy?
It is.
So how did you get that job? So you're a marine mechanic. Okay. So how do you go from that to the network administrator?
Well, at the time I was still on active duty orders on Lejeune, and they had a job fair, and that's where I met my new boss.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
So did you have any certifications or anything at that time?
I didn't have anything at all. I think that a big part of me coming on board in that capacity, there was also things outside of network administration. It was a brand new school that was being built from the ground up, and they just needed some good leadership to be able to help manage the new employees and the parents and everything else that was coming along with that. But that's when I definitely took my opportunity to get my first certification while I was there, and that was the Network Plus.
The Network Plus. Oh, okay. And then you went from there, so because you were there almost 2 years, I guess. And then, so how did you hop from there to your next job then? What was the thing? Did they offer you more money? Did you get poached? How did that work?
No, I had pretty much reached the potential that I saw with that position, and I was ready to move on to the next step.
Yeah. Did you just put out resumes then on monster.com or something, or?
In this case, my next job was the company my brother had actually worked for previously, and so I already had a connection there. And the owner is actually a Marine Corps colonel in the reserves.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So especially like one problem that people have is when they get their first job and they feel like they've been helped out with their first job, like leaving can be really hard. You get this whole question of loyalty.
Yeah.
Did you run into that issue at all, leaving your first job, or did everybody know what was happening and it was no big deal?
I think it definitely comes across my mind, and I have outstanding relationships with all my previous bosses, and you get to keep that by having honest conversation with them. And when they recognize that, most of them will say that, hey, we expect you to move on.
Yeah, okay. So when do you think is a good time to start bringing up the idea that you might be moving on? Is it like a couple of months beforehand, or?
Well, I would say that if you reach that plateau with your existing position, don't wait, because the clock's ticking, and it's if your skill set, if you have an opportunity to get into a position where you may not have the complete skill set, but they are in a need to have somebody in that position, it's a good opportunity to have a conversation, go and do an interview, and see what happens.
Oh, interesting. So you go from that, and then you go to the senior network engineer then at Future Data. So what did they do? What were you doing there?
It's another consulting company,
and
I've done quite a few consulting companies, but the beauty of it is that you get to work on many different networks throughout the day, and that gives you a lot of experience across different architectures and different vendors.
So then, what got you? Okay, so you got your Net Plus way back when, but how do you go from your Net Plus to 17 certifications? Like when did that get come through your head? Like, when did you start trying to do so many certifications?
Yeah, well, you get there by doing one at a time, right? And staying focused on that. But the second company that I worked for, Carolina's IT, they had such a great culture when it comes to the guys wanting to get certified and wanting to learn. Okay. I have never seen that anywhere else. And I'd actually, Mark Cavallero, the owner, I just commented it to him last week on LinkedIn when he had made a post about how great that culture was.
Really?
Yep.
So how long does it take you to get like one of these certifications then? Is it like every month or every 2 months or something? I mean, do you just...
It gets easier, I think, as you do them. The Net Plus is, I don't want to discount it, but it is basic material. And, but it did take long. I think it took me almost 6 months to get it. But I was fortunate I passed it on the first try.
Okay. Yeah.
My first Microsoft test, not so much. That one, 3 times it took me. And some of it's understanding, the kind of the format of the test and what kind of questions they're going to throw at you. There's always the right answer, and then there's the vendor's answer. And you have to have an understanding of how to differentiate that sometimes.
So how do you pick these certifications that you've done? Is it your employer says, we need this, or do you just kind of go, that would be kind of cool? Like, how do you?
Yeah, I think the Microsoft one, anybody getting into IT, if they don't want to do the CompTIA stuff, that's the route I would recommend, is an MCSC. The reason why is that the services that are covered in that certification, it's kind of a broad knowledge. So it's not just to Microsoft, but it's to a lot of other, Active Directory, and you have other options, whether it's with Mac or with Linux, those options. But conceptually, it's the same. So you can take that knowledge a little bit outside of the scope of just Microsoft as well.
Makes sense.
So it's a good foundation.
So you got all the certifications, and it seems like, though, you've bounced around like with your jobs a lot. And now, again, we were talking about this before, but back in the 90s, especially with IT people, you could bounce around every 6 months, and that's just how it was. But we're getting to 2016. At least for me, it seems a little nervous, like with bouncing around to so many jobs. Has that been an issue for you now? Like, you don't normally see that with IT folks, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. So I have had recruiters, and I've had interviews where they would ask me about the longevity of company that I've been to. I think there's 2 parts to it. When you interview, you want to position yourself so well that they can't afford not to hire you. And it seems like a very strong mentality to have. But these companies are very competitive in hiring good talent, and especially talent that they can see continue to grow into that position. And that's where I think that they've been maybe a little lax on them, looking at those parts, if you want to call them weaknesses, that on my resume, because they see that the potential that they could get out, even in a year and a half, should be really good.
Do you get a benefit, like with all these jobs, has that been around this particular area?
Mm-hmm.
So do you think you get a benefit for, like, do you think somebody could have your type of career in someplace else? I don't know, Alabama or Louisiana, or is this something kind of special, like you're just in a really good tech area? So
I think it's important to be in the right environment, and that being in a place like Raleigh-Durham for technology is one of the best in the country right now.
Really? Yeah. And I know, so you've got your college degree, right, in business?
I am almost done.
Almost done.
I have. Okay. I did the balancing of where's my time best spent, and certification. For my career has been where that time has been best spent. So I'm 6 classes away. I do plan on finishing it, but really the certification is where my focus has been.
So do you figure, would you go on for your master's or MBA or any of that, or just once it's done?
I'll do the MBA. When I originally chose the college that I went to, I looked at what the end result would be with the MBA, and they had, it was a 20 course curriculum, but they would waive 10 of those classes if I got my bachelor's through them as well. And it's a public school, ECU, so I can also take the first 2 years in the community college system. And even today, if I added up the numbers today, I would be surprised if the total cost was over $25,000, all the way from nothing through the MBA.
Through the MBA?
Yeah.
Wow.
But that's where I think it's important to know what that really long-term goal is ahead of time, so you can make all the right decisions to get there that much faster and more efficient.
So with your military service and all that, I mean, have you found have you gotten any benefits from that, either like money for education or anything else? Has there been any veterans benefits or anything that you found useful for your career?
Absolutely. The Montgomery GI Bill was something that I used for my college to pay for that.
What about I've talked with a lot of people in this whole post 9/11 college fund. Is that what it's called? Did that help you out at all? Because that apparently is supposed to pay for everything. It's almost a blank check apparently.
I'm not that familiar with it in that sense. When I was I signed up originally for the GI Bill, and then they had a kicker that they added to it. So I paid or contributed an additional amount and was able to get that additional money, and it was significant. I would probably say maybe at least 25-30% more total, and I think I paid $300-400 into that, and that was it to get that extra money.
Interesting. Now, when you go and you get hired for a job, or you're doing the interview process, have you noticed does there seem to be any preference for military? Do they seem to take that too much into account?
I think if they're prior military, it definitely comes into play. But outside of it, a lot of people have not had experience working with veterans. But I like to think that I've always left a great taste in their mouth afterwards, when it comes to working with veterans.
Oh, interesting. Now, so you were working for NetApp, and we were talking about that before, where you took a little. You said it was supposed to be a 3-month contract with NetApp, and it ended up being about 10 months. So why did you take such a short contract with NetApp?
I was counting on the experience that I was going to get with that kind of company. I had dealt mostly in the small business network and infrastructure side, just regular physical servers, that type of stuff. Maybe a little bit of virtualization, but no more than, I'd say 2 or 3 VMs on a box. Small business server allowed us to do that. So
you took it. So you're there you're going to do it for 3 months just to get an idea of how NetApp works.
Oh, absolutely. So taking that, I knew I was going to get into the data center, and it turned out so much better than what I ever could have expected. Because the group that I worked with, it was a multi-million-dollar lab that I had at my disposal to learn.
Wow.
And I did a great job there, and they renewed my contract, and I was there for almost a year. So it worked out very well. I got to train, without having to buy equipment for that year, and continue to develop my skill set, and that's where I'm at today.
That's cool. So do you have any problems transitioning cultures? So because they always talk about that with the modern technology jobs is find a company with a culture that you like. And so since you're bouncing, it's one thing if you find a job and you just stick with it, but if you're bouncing to these different companies, do you run into issues with the company culture at all? Or?
Not anymore.
That's good. Why not anymore?
Because having experience working for different companies, you kind of learn to vet the GM or whoever I'm going to be working for in the process. So I believe going into an interview, it's not a one-way conversation. I should be able to ask questions as well and make a decision if this is the place that I want to work.
Okay, interesting. So, and when you leave these jobs, do you always know where you're going next, or are you willing to leave a job before you know where you're going next?
So there's the number one rule is it's easy to get hired when you're already employed, and for 2 reasons. One, the employer, that they see that somebody wants you, and the second part is you don't get rushed into a decision. You get to continue to stay employed, and you have that cash flow coming in, so you don't have an undue pressure of having to deal with, I got to just take whatever job comes out first.
And then, so you're also a contributor at asarockstar.com.
Yes.
You write? So what is it? Is that like a blog? Is that like a TechCrunch,
it's my attempt at a blog.
It's your attempt. Okay.
I don't have that many posts. It's something that I picked up a couple years ago. I really like the Cisco ASA product. And the amount of knowledge now, and originally when I wanted to write it, it was, I'm going to learn this, and I'm going to be forced to learn it out of necessity because I'm going to be writing about it. And that was the approach. But I really haven't gone back and messed that much with it. But I still, I have other articles out there that I have contributed with certification specifically.
Yeah.
I've got a series that I've been working on.
Oh, that's cool. So do you think, okay, so again, 2016, do you think it's better if you're going to write to create your own blog or try to do guest posts for somebody else's blog?
I think the guest posts, and the beauty of it is you can make a very small commitment. Yeah. The other thing is that you can also get paid to do it and not have to do it for free.
Okay, that works. So it's curious. So we'll talk about a little bit about TMW Systems, because you're talking about, you've got the data center. Now, one of the curious things is, so you guys are using the FlexPod solutions.
Yes.
So I've heard some very good things about FlexPod, and then I hear a lot of people have a stroke over the cost of FlexPod. Mm-hmm. Like, how do you like FlexPod in the real world?
I absolutely enjoy it because of how sound it is. Right. This is a top tier enterprise solution. Yeah. It was developed and put together. Guides were put together by people much smarter than myself, and to be handed almost a playbook. Cisco has these things called CBDs. Okay. They're Cisco verified designs, and what they do is they collaborate, across all these major companies and piece this thing together. And basically, they hand out two guides. One is the design guide, and then the other is the actual configuration guide, and they provide all the command line, the next finish windows that you may deal with on other components. Okay. But it makes it very simple.
So is there ever discussion about not using FlexPod, or is that that's the best way to go?
I think, we're coming up on a refresh in our division, so we're going to look at other vendors. You have to, because if you just think you're going to continue on the same path, technology changes so fast. Things get cheaper, performance gets better, footprints get smaller, and you want to take advantage of that, with maybe a new vendor.
So what, like for a data center like yours, like approximately, like what's your refresh cycle? How often do you chuck the old servers?
3 years.
3 years. So you're still on 3 years.
Yeah, we're pretty good with that.
Okay. And so you've got the two data centers, and you say it's active, and one's active and one's standby. Does that actually mean, so Nashville, right, is where the other one is?
Yes.
So does that mean one is just sitting there in case this one gets wiped out by a tsunami, or how does that work for your data centers?
Yeah, pretty much. So it's a warm site. We replicate all the VMs over to that site, and they're just sitting there on the storage, ready to be spun up should we see a catastrophic failure, at our primary site.
So, because it's kind of far away. So we're Durham and Nashville. I don't know how far that is distance. Because I was told the interesting thing with virtualization nowadays and high availability is if you can keep the latency apparently like under 50 milliseconds, you can actually have high availability between entire data centers. Have they looked at that, or is this is just already what they own, and so that's what they're with?
I'll say that the existing equipment would not support that. There's a couple, when you get into redundant data center design, we have what we call a metro design, which allows you to be in close enough proximity to do a synchronous replication, meaning that whatever's written on the one storage is going to get written at the same time to the other. So your what we call RPO, your recovery point objective is going to be 0. You don't want to lose any data at all should you have to cut over. That's a very expensive solution. On getting further distances, it's going to have to be an asynchronous synchronization. So, it's not going to be in real time. So we choose windows of copying that data over based on our SLA. And we promise the client no more than a 24-hour loss of data, but we actually provide even better than that. We're at 8 hours right now for a client.
Oh, so that's the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
So how long does it take to take your Nashville site and actually get it online if something catastrophic did happen here?
I would guess about an hour, maybe 2 at the most. I do copied configs. So my network infrastructure here at the primary site is going to be the same at the Nashville site. And so because it's already spun up. I think the only thing we'd really contend with is going to be DNS and updating that.
Interesting. Yeah, I wonder how long that would take. Okay.
Yeah, but if they if they point their DNS to pick up our domain off of our DNS servers, it would be immediate, and there wouldn't be any downtime.
Interesting. So then you're also saying that you use VMware and you use Citrix within your environment. Mm-hmm. So that's curious. So why do you use both of them? Like, what's the benefit of VMware? What's the benefit of Citrix if you're looking at virtualization?
Yeah, so they both fill a different capacity in our infrastructure.
Okay.
VMware is our virtualization across for all the servers and the VMs.
Okay.
And what Citrix does for us is we use the Zen App product, where it allows us to basically create a remote session from an end user, across the internet into our data center, and just get the application presented to them.
Oh, I see. So that's interesting. That's cool. So do you figure? So you figure you're going to be with this company for a little bit while longer, right?
Absolutely. I am having a blast.
You're having a blast.
Yes.
Really? So what's the culture like? Something like TMW Systems. Do you have beer on tap? Do you have ping pong tables? like what makes it so that you're having a blast there?
I think it's the group I work with. When you're around people who are as excited about technology as you are, that's a big piece of it. Yeah. No, I don't have beer on Fridays anymore like I did at NetApp, and I absolutely enjoyed that. But we're a very professional team, but we do have some after hours stuff that there's so many great places around here that you can go to. Yeah. So it's easy enough to go hang out with the guys, so to speak.
That's cool. So then what do you figure, what do you think the next 10 years of your career is going to look like? So what direction are you going in?
I think I'm going to be focusing, I can't speak specifically to technologies because that can easily change down the road. But I think what I'm going to focus on is just getting into larger infrastructures, managing, maybe to a point of a couple dozen data centers. That would be my goal.
That's cool. What companies would have a couple dozen data centers? Do you know?
There's very few. So
okay.
Specifically, I would say, places like Amazon or Rackspace, Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, those companies, they have very, very large infrastructures.
So with you where you're at now, do you start schmoozing with them? How do you start schmoozing with them to get into a company like that? Or do you just, your resume will be good enough to get you in?
I don't think it will be. I don't think it is for anybody. I think that you have to, networking is a very important part of really continuing to climb. Yeah. So I do know a couple of people that already work at those companies. Okay. And I knew them prior to them going to those companies. So what I would do is, I would leverage my social media, my LinkedIn particularly, reach out to them and say, hey, here's what I'm doing today. I'm interested in understanding what immediate needs you may see are there. And then, focus on those technologies that they may be using, learning those, and then go interview.
Do you think for that kind of job, do you figure you'd have to relocate? Are there companies, do you think you'd actually be able to stay here if you went to a company like that, like Rackspace or whatever?
I think when you get into very dispersed infrastructure, the expectation is that you can manage it remotely. So actually, I do know a couple, particularly there's a gentleman named Russ White, and I've read a couple of his architecture books. Yeah. He recently took a job for LinkedIn. Okay. But he lives on the coast of North Carolina. Oh, really? So it's definitely possible. I won't say that there's no travel involved, but it gives you even more flexibility.
Oh, that's interesting. So now, getting to be where we're at now, if you had a kid and we're going to go out in the world, they're 18 or 19 years old. What do you think? What technology would you say that they should focus on now? What's the sexy thing that you think is actually going to be valuable in the next 5 or 10 years?
If it's specifically networking, I would say focusing on the fabric type of technologies. Okay. We're really starting to see that and really the two big players that I see are Cisco ACI and VMware NSX. Okay. But OpenStack is another very merging technology. Okay. And I think that anywhere of those three, you couldn't go wrong.
Okay. And then how do you think they should try to get there? Like if you're starting out now, do you go for just straight for the certifications? Do you go for a college degree? Do you just get your foot in the door with whoever will take you? Like, what do you figure?
I think the biggest benefit with certification, there's an immediate return on investment, in my opinion. I mean, if you get a certification and now you have it on your resume, now you can leverage that, to interview for a position.
Okay. And I guess the final thing then, so, I mean, back in the day, like I say, I served in the Army, as I always say, in the mid-90s. And so, I mean, we were always told, when I was growing up, if you don't know what the hell to do, go into the military because it'll be good for you and will help you out in life. Would you advise that? I mean, if somebody wants to get into technology, isn't really sure how to, would you advise to go into the military at this point?
I think that if they're able to get the job designation in that, that can be very valuable, absolutely, because you're going to get a lot of experience and a lot of opportunity. The military wants to see their engineers certified, and they'll pay for it. They'll pay for you to go to classes. So, class $3,000-$5,000, sometimes more. I personally, the only class I've taken was VMware's because I was required to. But I was fortunate that the business I worked for was able to get a grant for that money because of the area that our company was operating in.
Okay, cool. Well, I think that about wraps it up. Is there any final advice you'd give the people at home about trying to get into data centers, or any just general advice you'd give?
Yeah, I tell them definitely stay focused. Know what your objective is. Very similar to military. You know what your mission is, and anything that detracts from you reaching that goal, avoid it.
That makes sense. Okay, well, it's good talking to you today.
Absolutely.
So this was Fred Ferrell, Network and Infrastructure Engineer at TMW Systems. Yet another interview talking about the real world of technology and how you can get into it.